Good morning, Jackie here from TBA Law. Happy Monday. I hope you all had a great weekend. I've actually been away last weekend. I had a long weekend, so I haven't been doing a Facebook Live for 2 weeks. So, hi. I try and do these Facebook Lives every Monday morning, a short snippet of legal information. And whilst I'm a wills and estates specialist, I've sort of exhausted a lot of the topics around wills and estates for a little while, and all those videos are on Facebook, so you can go back and look at those if you need to. But so some of the topics for the next couple of months will change, and I'll do some broader topics around other areas of the law that we do. Hi Julie, hope you're having a great time. So, preparing to sell your property. That's what the topic today is about. Now, I'll tell you the information from a legal perspective, because there are obviously a lot of practical things that you need to do if you're looking to sell your property, such as finding a real estate agent and getting them out to have a look at the property and getting their advice on what you need to do to prepare the property for sale as well, because there might be a whole lot of little maintenance things that might be worthwhile doing or maybe not. So those are a separate issue. But from a legal perspective, what do you need to start with? So look, firstly, we've got this little brochure that you can download from our website about selling a property. Now, these are the 9 steps of conveyancing from our perspective that we follow from TBA Law. So you can sort of follow through the 9 steps as you go as to what stage you're up to. However, today we're really only talking about step 1, which is getting the vendor statement done. Okay, so the vendor statement really needs to be done before you put the property on the market, because once the property is being advertised, purchasers might want to ask the real estate agent to look at the vendor statement before they make an offer. It's really difficult when a real estate agent starts advertising a property without the vendor statement, and then all of a sudden there's someone wanting to look at it and give an offer, and the real estate agent hasn't got that document, and they come to us and they're like, we need it urgently. It usually takes at least a week to get a vendor statement together. We can sometimes do it faster if it's a really simple sort of residential property, but otherwise it takes about a week, and the longest about 2 weeks to get your vendor statement done. So your vendor statement is done under Section 32 of the Sale of Land Act, and so that's why sometimes it's just called a Section 32. It gives your disclosure requirements, all right? So yes, the concept of buyer beware still exists, so a buyer still has to do their own due diligence. However, there has to be a basic level of disclosure by the vendor at the beginning. And that includes details about the title, details about planning, details about building works, details about any government notices, details about outgoings on the property, if there's subdivision works, if there are various other bits and pieces that need to be disclosed. So, what do we need to get a vendor statement started? We need generally the rates notice and often the water rates as well. Okay, so those 2 are the main things that we need, and we need a bit of information from you, which we'll call you and ask you about. We can do most of the searches ourselves. We find out the planning information ourselves, so you don't need to have that. We do some Vic Road searches. If there's EPA issues, we do those. We often do the water information search as well, because sometimes there's information that will come up that's not on your rates notice, and likewise with council information. So we'll often do a council information search which provides extra information not on your rates notice. But the rates notice often gives us the title particulars, so we can do the title search as well. So all of that can be done. Other things to be aware of are if there's been building works done, right? So you do have to disclose whether there's been building works done that require a building permit, whether you got a building permit or not. If you did get a building permit and it's all through council, that's easy enough. We just apply to council and we get a copy of all of that information, and that all goes in there. If you've been an owner builder, there's some extra requirements. You need to get a building report done, and you need to make sure that your owner builder warranty insurance is in place. If you did building works and there wasn't a building permit, it's, I suppose, a buyer beware situation, because the situation is what it is. If a buyer really loves the property, they'll proceed on that basis. If they're worried, they could get you to do a building report. But basically, if you haven't got the building permit, you can't get one retrospectively. So it's too late, and the buyer will wear the risk that the council might give notice to pull the building down, or to do further works to it to bring it up to the building code. So that's why if you get a building report on building works that you've done, which include like a veranda, a carport, a pergola, anything in most council areas, it's anything over a 3x3 building. Internal structural works don't need building permits most of the time. If there has been upgrades to electricals and plumbing, bathroom or kitchen rebuilds, then sometimes it's a good thing to put in your tradies certifications, so your electrical certification and your plumbing certification, but they're not necessarily a requirement. It's just a nice thing to do, I suppose. So that's building works. Planning information. Now, a lot of this may not impact if there's already a building done on the property. If it's a vacant block, then there'll be impacts around, or if it's a building, a property where someone wants to do extra works. The overlays and the planning scheme affect being able to get permits. So that's why we disclose that information, so the purchaser can make inquiries with the council themselves as to whether they can use the property for what they want to use it for. Also, some planning zones can't get as much finance as others. So farming properties, you can usually only get up to 60% finance. So it's also something relevant for a purchaser to take to their bank to see about borrowing capacity. You have to disclose any notices that have come about. So notices might be, if you've done building works without a permit, whether you've got a notice to show cause or make some rectifications to that. Sometimes there's notices, particularly coming up to fire season, to clean up property in terms of slashing grass or fallen timber. Those are the main notices that you come across. Sometimes there is a notice that there might be a compulsory acquisition, and that might become relevant through the corridor for the Kilmore bypass as that edges closer. Then other disclosures to make might be around water, so particularly regionally and along the Goulburn River, people with irrigation water, or people at Nagambie who have jetty licences, or pump licences. So all these things we need to know about. The other thing around rural properties is sometimes there is a unused road licence and there's a 99-year lease. So all these little things we need to know because we need to disclose these. If we don't have an idea of what to look for, we can't look for it, and we're not going to spend your money by looking for everything if it's not going to be relevant. So even if you can't find your jetty licence or your 99-year lease, if you tell us, oh look, I've got this thing, or this little bit of land I know is not actually mine but I'm allowed to use it, that gives us an idea of what we need to look for. So I suppose those are the main things in terms of selling or preparing a property for sale from a legal perspective. So that vendor statement needs to be done before you get it on the market, or just as you're getting it on the market. Now, in terms of expiry of vendor statements, most certificates are good for the financial year that they're prepared in because the financial information won't change. Sometimes people talk about a vendor statement expiring within 3 months. So that's a pretty sensitive purchaser who would demand for upgrades to certificates. Particularly, like I said, if it's within the same financial year and the information won't change. There are some certificates that we can upgrade fairly quickly if they are demanding like that, but generally we say, well, your vendor statement's good for the financial year that it's prepared in, and realistically it's good as at the date that you prepared it. And again, it comes back to purchaser buyer beware. They've got to do their own due diligence as well anyway. So if your vendor statement is not sufficient and there is something that a purchaser comes back and finds, then the contract they can get out of it potentially. Or it opens it up for renegotiation. So that's why it's really important to have that vendor statement right. So there you go, preparing a property for sale. Slightly different topic from what I usually talk about, but it's certainly the sort of work that our firm does a lot of. If you have any questions, you can always put those questions in a direct message to us on Facebook, or you can find us on our website. All our direct email addresses are available there, so you can email us direct if you have a question. Otherwise, I do these short snippets of information every Monday live. The videos do get posted to the page, so you can go back and watch them when they're relevant for you, or tag someone's name in them if you think it's important for someone to watch.